I thank the chairman and thank both of the witnesses for their testimony. I would echo the remarks of my colleagues, of the ranking member and of the gentlewoman from Pennsylvania. This hearing is nonsensical. The notion that we would consider this bill on an emergency basis, a bill that was introduced last night, a bill that has had no legislative hearing, no witnesses, no markup, no CBO score. That's your emergency? To say nothing of the disregard for regular order for the last year and a half, certainly since I've been on this Rules Committee, I've heard from many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle talk about the need for regular order, making that their so-called imperative, only to see week after week them jettison the same principles that they claim to adhere to. There's an article in Punchbowl yesterday, I'm going to quote from it, because I think it's a great summation of why we're here. Quote, "In what might be the most predictable turn of events of this Congress, the moderate New York Republicans who were upset about the tax bill, the bill we considered last night, not including changes to SALT deductions, have backed down in exchange for almost nothing. The House Republican leadership has told the New Yorkers, principally Reps Nick LaLota, Mike Lawler, Anthony D'Esposito, and Andrew Garbarino, that they'll work on a bill allowing more deductions for state and local taxes for married couples, possibly for a vote next week. But it's not clear what that bill would even look like according to aides in and outside of the leadership. Of course, we now know in the late introduction last night what that bill looks like. There's a saying, this is from the article, in House Republican leadership circles, moderates always fold. In this case, that is true. But the moderates here really didn't have many cards to play. I disagree with only one sentence in that quote, and that's the last sentence, because of course they did have a card to play. They could have voted against the bill last night if they felt so passionate about this particular proposal, but they didn't. So I recognize that some folks think that this will prove to their electoral benefit, that it'll inure to their electoral benefit. I'm here to tell you it's simply not the case. The American people can see this for the farce that it is. And to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, in particular those whom I have respect for and have engaged in many a colloquy over the course of this last year in terms of regular order, I would just hope that perhaps you would adhere to the principles that you claim to support. At the risk of quoting Punchbowl twice, a reporter, as Tom knows, reporter Jake Sherman just tweeted this out. I thought it was an astute point. This rules vote, apparently he may be the only person watching this hearing. Some wealthy folks in New York, I guess, but this rules vote on SALT is a true test of whether Rep. Ralph Norman, Rep. Thomas Massey, and Chip Roy Texas, so their Twitter X handles, are true adherents to regular order. This SALT bill was introduced last night, hasn't gone through committee, no CBO score, et cetera, et cetera. I think he's right. It's a great test, an astute and salient point. Because I just cannot imagine, putting aside the merits, the impact that this bill has, in terms of the hardworking people of South Carolina or Kentucky. I'm not convinced that this SALT proposal is a huge priority for your respective constituencies. Perhaps you'll inform me otherwise. But putting aside the merits of the proposal, certainly with respect to regular order and the need for it, this doesn't fit the bill. And I'm not going to yield to my colleague, Mr. Massey, because I think he's next in the order here. So I eagerly await his rationale. But this isn't the way to do business. It's no way to run a train station, no way to run a government, no way to to administer the Rules Committee or a majority. But if your goal is to administer the most chaotic, dysfunctional, and unproductive Congress in the modern history of the country, then this is probably the way to do it. So with that, I yield back.